Welcome to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. I'm Justin Mason, joined as always by Dave McDonald. Dave, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. Excited to have one of the greats on our show tonight, someone who I've known for quite a long time in this industry.
One of my favorite people in the industry, the great Vlad Sedler, who's the head of FTN MLB Fantasy. He's a Tout Wars champion. He's won 39 NFBC League championships, but he's better known as the Fab Whisperer. Vlad, welcome to the show.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure. Very happy to be here and on the eve of hopefully some good news because we can really use some.
Yeah, we were talking about this off air before we started. Just we're all kind of on pins and needles, hoping we're going to go to Vegas and do some live events. And I think tomorrow may be the deadline for them to figure everything out, so that way NFBC doesn't cancel that. But hopefully we'll get to hang. I'll be in Vegas either way. I'm going. I'm recruiting people to still go and maybe do a draft or two while we're there. So we'll see. Dave has already told me he ain't going if there's no.
Well, I mean, I know Jake and Tony definitely aren't going. I'll have to see what Marcus would do, but it's tough to go from sharing costs with three other people to paying for your own Vegas hotel room.
Wait, you can stay with Justin and Danielle, can't you?
Yeah,
no.
I am an adult,
Sorry.
I get my own hotel room. I'm sorry, like that's
I mean, also, you see how open they are with their sex lives on Twitter. I don't really need to be that close to the action.
Yeah. They ain't abstaining for you that weekend.
No, not in Vegas. The Vegas weekend without kids? No, we're gonna have fun. Vlad, remind everybody where you can reach social media, and then just give kind of a brief rundown of everything you do over at FTN, because you are, like Dave said, a giant in the industry.
Thank you. That's very kind. And RotoGut on Twitter, and then ftnfantasy.com is the website where you can find all of the content. We've just been pumping out a lot of stuff since around Christmas. Had a big draft guide come out, some fun guest writers in that, and then just since then, myself, I've been putting together a tiers series specific to NFBC, and just kind of concluded that with the relief pitchers article. That's been fun, and just doing a lot of drafts and, having fun, right? So getting ready for what we hope is a season soon.
How many drafts have you already done?
So I have 2 Fab Leagues so far. I've done 2 online championships because through Greg, we did a couple of live streamed OCs, the 12 teamers. So I've got those 2, and then 10 draft champions so far. Just kind of, you know how those go. Like once you pop, you can't stop. So I started my first one around Christmas, and then since then I kind of always need to be in a draft. So when I'm getting around to the 45th round of a draft, jump into a new one. So 10th or 11th, I think, of those. I've done a cut line or 2, and then right now I'm in TGFBI and Tout Wars draft and hold. So that's another similar format, but that's 50 round draft and hold, but with the OBP component. So that's the one league that's different from the rest.
Would it shock you to know that I've only done 2 or 3 draft champions in my entire life?
I mean, I guess, yeah, because it's fun.
They are fun. They are fun. You have to be on with your analysis though. And coming off the short season last year was not good for me in terms of analyzing how players would do coming off of that short season. We didn't have the Phil Dussault 2020 regression formula correct.
Well, let's talk a little bit about. I don't think there's any real news, Max Muncy's maybe swinging a bat, maybe not. Who cares? I know Dave and I are not drafting Max Muncy. Are you drafting Max Muncy there, Vlad?
I've been so I have my own rankings. The VDP Vlad's draft position. I got Muncy well below. I know Dave would be surprised with that, the fact that he's a Dodger and he's injured.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I did not bump him in my rankings. I do have one share, and that was I think sometime in January, where he fell to 230 overall. At the time, it was maybe 60 spots past his ADP. I didn't really have many stashes. I'm like, well, let's give it a shot. So no, I did sort of think that whatever's going on with him is could end up turning into a Freeman signing. So Freddie Freeman signing. So we'll see about that. But yeah, I just in general, trying to avoid guys that are coming off something rough like that. The only thing I know is that he was shopping in a Costco somewhere in the Midwest, because somebody posted a picture with him in a Costco. But other than that, I don't know much about Muncie.
So, Vlad, you started playing NFBC in 2000, way back in 2008. I think, you're one of the few who goes back that far with me. And your first league was actually a satellite league. So,
Yep.
how did you end up finding out about NFBC, and how did you decide to play that particular contest?
So I've been playing fantasy sports in general since high school, so the 90s. And at the end of college, I was introduced to a game called CDM, the Diamond Challenge, and that was at the time the kind of the big thing, the first national competition, because they had at the time a $25,000 grand prize that then got bumped up to $50,000, and they had a partnership with USA Today, so it was pretty well known game. Actually, a lot of the best fantasy players that I know of now, and many of those playing in the NFBC came from there. A lot of us met on the message boards there in CDM. And in that first season, my friend Steve Zacks introduced me to the game, asked me if I wanted to split a team. I was a poor college student, but we made it happen. He says, hey, whatever, just pay me after. And it was the Johan Santana breakout year, and he was minimum salary at the time. It's a salary cap format.
Oh yeah.
And we came in 4th overall out of about 12,000 people.
Oh, wow.
At the time. And so, for
That's
me,
great.
it was, small, low 5 figures coming out of college. I'm like, sweet.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the start of the bankroll. And then obviously I knew Scott Genstead over that time, and he was the one that had been in NFBC for a couple of years, said he was going to Vegas, and just kind of got me interested. So I jumped into a satellite there in 2008. And then just kind of slowly started making my way up, playing some 12 teamers, eventually made it to the main event, and haven't not gone back. So every year, this is my, my absolute most favorite weekend. It's obviously where I've met you, Dave, many years ago. But Vegas main event is where it's at. It's really
2010,
granddaddy.
I think. Yeah, back in, man, it's crazy to think 12 years ago. Yeah.
Yep.
And I just remember looking around, I was with Jake and Tony, and I think back then you were with Ronnie Moore as part of the Cali Cartel, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's more like, it's probably 2013, 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, we were splitting teams back then. This is kind of when I first just started writing. I remember, wrote for a free site. It was Fleming and Sean Childs had a site called Sports Draft Daily. So I was writing for free. Started there. And then because I'd done well with the CDM games, Charlie Wiegert invited me to join him to co-manage a team at the FSWA at the FSGA now. But so that was my kind of first exposure to everyone. And that's when I met folks at Baseball HQ, introduced Ron Chandler, wrote some stuff for them, Ray Murphy, Brent Hershey, and then to RotoWire. So that's where I was for a few years with, through Erickson, DVR, of course, Chris Liss, great experience there.
Yeah.
And then, Guru from there, and then where I am now with FTN. So that's kind of my history. Not that you asked, but.
No, that's great to know. I'm looking at the historical results now. So yeah, 2011 to 2013, you were Cali Cartel, it looks like. But I think I met you before that, because we were the only people there who were in our age range. We were the only people in our 30s and 20s at the time. I actually, when we met, I think we were both still in our 20s. But yeah, it was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
You're talking about your CDM days, and obviously, I remember you from that as well. We didn't really talk as much. I don't think we really knew each other. It wasn't really the same type of community, like NFBC, and like you said, it was talking on message boards and that sort type of thing. But now the NFBC has a contest, the Diamond Roto Challenge, which is interesting because kind of reminiscent of those old CDM salary cap games. Tell us a little bit about that contest.
The Diamond Challenge Roto. That's what they have NFBC.
Yeah.
So it actually is the same game.
NFBC is it really?
They own it, and so there's a Roto version and a points version, and basically, it's the same thing. You draft you basically have players that you pick for the team in the beginning of the year, and they're set. Those salaries are set for the entire year, and every week you have to set those players under a specific salary cap. I think it's like 30,000, and
that would
you
be
only
about the
get
same.
like Yeah, and you get like 16 player purchases for the course, over the course of the whole season. So
do they do the transaction fees like the old ones used to?
they just put it all in.
Okay.
It's just the easiest way now.
Like
I
a
forgot how much
package?
it is. Yeah, you just buy it
Okay.
up front. Always makes
Yeah.
more sense than to buy transaction.
Man, I remember that back in the day when it was new. They used to charge you like, $1.50 to move someone from your bench to your starting lineup, and like $10 for new player purchases. So I ended up winning my league and still lost money because of all of the changes that I had made throughout the year. I was like, what a fucking jip. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, it's funny. And when I first started playing, or actually a little bit before I started playing, was really before the internet. At least that's what the people had told me. So people would have to, when I first started, we would call in our changes. We would have,
Oh yeah.
Steve with his, scribble, scratch,
Oh, yeah.
would call in every Sunday to call in those transactions. And before even that time, they would having to basically mail in. They would mail the results of the standings every week. It was just a crazy world to think about when we're constantly refreshing now.
I remember being on a cruise ship and with my parents. This is back in like when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, and calling on a payphone and telling them my changes, and I had to pay like something like $2 or something to come to put quarters in. It was like taxi squad player 64532 position first base play. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Yep.
Like, to think that that's how me and you. That's like back when we started playing. It was a.
I'm not this much younger than you guys. That like I had the internet.
No, but I didn't know if you played this contest or not, so I didn't know if you would know what we were talking about with that.
But I think you were serving our country at this time, so
I probably was. Look, I mean, I played fantasy. I just was we had the internet already. Mm-hmm. Did the internet not come out to like where you guys live? I think you guys started playing a little bit before me.
There was the internet, but it wasn't this stuff wasn't done all online at that time.
Yeah.
I was probably like in an AOL chat room or something. I don't
know. You're probably fighting someone in a bar somewhere. Let's be honest.
This is probably true. You won 5 NFBC leagues in 2021. Vlad, what makes you such a better player than Dave, who only won 1 NFBC league, which was less than me, by the way. I won more NFBC leagues last year than Dave.
How many leagues did you play, Justin?
No comment.
How many did I play?
I mean, that's kind of my volume was so last year was the first year that I had over more. Basically, I drafted more than 15 teams, and I doubled that. So I played 30 teams, and I also doubled my fab teams. Usually, I do about 6, and I think I did 12. So it was it was a pretty massive workload, and overall, my season was to me at least a disappointment. Just because there was nothing that I really sniffed as far as overall prize money. I came in like 15th overall in the draft champions, but like, I mean, it's nice, but you really kind of want to make a run for it in something. So you win a couple online championship leagues, but aren't close to top overall. It's nice, but it's not what you want. And then same thing, main event, I think came in like 2nd place in both my leagues. And of course, it's these monsters out of nowhere. It was like, Casey Chaw, middle of the pack all season long. I'm in 1st, cruising, and then August comes around, and there he comes, just out of nowhere, just like cruising. Same thing, Jason Anthony, Booms 66, I think, on Twitter, owns car washes. Another good guy who brings the bottle of blue every year. Just out of nowhere, just had the smoking hot team. He beat me to Guerrero Jr. In that draft, and Guerrero Jr. made me pay for it along with the rest of this team. So 2nd place in both those leagues.
Yeah, Lindy is another guy who always does that, man. There's just certain people when they're as good as they are, know that it's never over. They could be down 30 points, whatever. I don't think people realize sometimes how much ground can be gained in the last 4 to 6 weeks.
Yep.
If you have the momentum, and especially if people run out of fab, because I've been on the wrong end of that on several occasions. But you can never get comfortable. You have to keep the foot on the pedal and keep making your move to keep that 1st place.
Yeah, I was in Phil's 3rd place overall main event team league. He didn't catch up.
So you were lucky. It wasn't even his first. Wasn't even the first overall.
He was so far ahead of us from like June on. Like it just is like he never looked back at us. He was from I think probably from about June 1st, he was just looking at the overall,
Mhm.
going, "Is this team going to win it all?" So yeah, it's all right. I think Dave
I was actually, because I remember that period of time well, and I was talking to Phil at the time, but I was just thinking like, and the guy chasing him, Emmett Ruland, was second,
Mhm.
a guy from the old CDM days who I know is a fantastic player too. But I was just thinking, would have been like to be Phil at that point, just sweating, like you just having the magical season, everything's right, but just got to hold off this person, just can't let him get me. I need this. So I was kind of like feeling his pain, but also like in a little bit of a tussle. It's like you just want to see him. Sorry, no offense, Emmett, but you just kind of want to see him hold on for that magical season that he was going for, and he got it.
Yeah, it was amazing to watch. Just
It was.
yeah, just so cool. Like it was, even though like I wasn't involved anywhere close to like that overall, but I was like checking that overall every day just to see
Mhm.
like how Phil's teams were doing. I mean, to have 3 teams finish, I think, in the top 25 of the overall, like that's insane.
Oh yeah, I mean that's it's everyone's dream, to play it and just, to be able to do that. But he's even like, I'm never going to do it again. But it was really cool to do it. Who knows though? I wouldn't rule it out for Phil. I've known him for a couple years now, and I knew that he was going to be really, really good. I didn't know it was going to be to that degree, but I knew he was going to have a really good season. So Vlad, you mentioned you played 30 plus leagues. I think Justin counted 33 last year. I believe me, I know. I have trouble keeping track of like 4 or 5 fab leagues.
Mhm.
How the hell are you able to not only play all those leagues but be successful? I know you didn't do as well as you would have liked, but you still, you had a good year overall. How are you able to do that? Because as you know, you spread yourself so thin. It's
Yeah.
hard to be that fine on so many. I don't know how many of those leagues are fab leagues, but I'm sure it was probably more than 4 or 5.
12, yeah, 12 of
Yeah,
those.
that's wow. Yeah.
It's well, it comes at the sacrifice of other things, of course, and that's one of the things I want to adjust for this year, because especially my kids are, now they're older, they're talking, and I want to spend more time with them. Obviously, producing content, subscribers and people that are coming for information, of course, they, for me, come first. And I'm not just saying that like I want to do well, but I mean that's kind of what I'm, the goal is first is for them to do well and come back the following year. But it comes at an expensive. But I block out time. Basically, what it is just schedule with the wife, where I know Friday nights, unfortunately, aren't what it used to be. It's not, you're not date night. If I'm done early, we'll schedule watch a movie or something. But like, she's got a ton of work herself, so I just know Friday night, kids are sleeping, I can really grind into the fab article. And then when I'm prepping for the fab article to write it out, I then am fully versed in knowing that I haven't missed anything when I actually do my fab bids.
Yeah.
The problem comes sometimes if, say Monday and I'm at work and there's, some changes with, someone's out of the lineup or someone's got hurt or someone came back from the IL. When you have so many teams, you can miss things. And I'm thinking specifically on a DC where I had Fernando Tatis come back from the IL, and I somehow, just because you're in a flurry of things, I left him on my bench. I forgot. I checked in on the Friday changes. I'm like, man, I didn't get him in on Monday. And those type of things make it different. So it is difficult. You don't want to spread yourself thin. Just basically don't bite off more than you can chew.
It's one of the reasons, aside from my bet with Rob Silver on how many teams I'm going to do this year, one of the reasons I wanted to cut down the amount of leagues I did, because I did 29 leagues last year, was that I could pinpoint, especially late in the season, different instances where that kind of thing, like Nelson Cruz comes off the IL and I don't get him into my lineup because I just missed League 16. Yep. And it cost me money. Like I could actually pinpoint, this move or this, flurry of moves cost me first place in this league or cost me second place in that league. And so I made the decision that, hey, I need to have a little bit more manageable workload, especially working full-time, parent, married, all that stuff. It just makes sense to have a little bit less of a workload with my leagues. You're going to Vegas, right? I mean, if there is a Vegas, what leagues will you play in Vegas in the live events if we get to play?
So for sure the main event that it takes place on Saturday. It's just the greatest thing ever because you've got the 7 drafts or 6, whatever it is, happening all at the same time in a large conference room in the Bellagio. You got the Hall of Fame announcement in the beginning, and all the Hall of Famers stand up, and something that we all want to do it someday. This year, John Posma. So big congratulations to John, and just we draft, right? I mean, and stand around and look at the boards afterwards. So for sure, main event. Since I'm usually just there like a Thursday through Saturday, I want to hang out with everybody. So I try not to schedule too many drafts. I want to be social. I want to have fun. The last couple of years, I had done the platinum, the 15K entry. We did that with Rob Silver a couple years ago. Did it with Modica last season. This season, I bowed out. It was Rob's team originally, so Rob is going to manage that, and I'm going to look to try to get into something else, maybe not live, but online. A super, if a second one comes out, I would love to maybe try an auction. I haven't done an auction in 3 years.
I'm doing the auction.
Nice.
If we have the drafts, I'm doing the auction championship. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm really thinking I kind of want. I need to get an auction, and if you're gonna do an auction, it's of course better to do it live. So
absolutely, yeah. If there isn't the Vegas drafts, then I'll trade that auction and for something else. Let's see. Oh,
so do you play any other formats aside from NFBC?
I try not to anymore, just because just kind of keep my head on to one specific thing. And different formats within NFBC. So obviously I'm doing some points, some no fab leagues, things like that. Outside of that, really all I'm really doing is Tout Wars, which is it's a draft and hold, so I don't have to worry about fab on another site. But it's got that OBP component, so it really kind of throws a kink into everything. Have to rerun projections and everything like that. So right now, that's the only thing. At some point, I'd like to. I've been listening to some great pods, and people have had some, the different fantastic, leagues. I would love to kind of have that. Haven't had like a true home baseball league in many, many years. We had one in the early 2000s, and a lot of those people just sort of fell away, just not really into baseball like I was. So it would be nice to have like a cool home league.
You play some of the underdog though, right? Because you were talking about.
That doesn't count. That's like I'm walking the dog, and I'm it's a cool app, and so Underdog is awesome. It's well, first of all, it's the guy that who started it all is Jeremy Levine, who's a well-known entrepreneur in the industry. He actually, I think, founded and sold a couple of, I forgot, it was like Fantasy Draft and Draft Street, or a couple of big DFS sites. So the guy has been an absolute success, and then he's just got incredible, like crazy investors like Drake and LeBron and all kinds of people. So the site itself is beautiful. It's like great UI UX, user interface, and football, they gave away $1 million last season. So now obviously the baseball ones are a little smaller, the prize pools are a little less, but still it's fun. It's a different format. It's best ball points, 30-second clock, and so this is just something I'm doing when I'm passing the time. I'm sitting in traffic, even though I shouldn't be texting, and you shouldn't be drafting and driving, but hey, it's not moving anywhere. So there, when I'm walking the dog, I'm just kind of firing off these $5, $25 best balls.
Now, SoCal is adding a league in Earth this year. We would love to get you in there next year.
Next year's a possibility. Let's do that. You never say never.
What were you going to say?
Oh, nothing, because I'd been asked before, and I politely declined. So I thought maybe I was getting ambushed guilted into.
No. I mean, hey, you were mentioning. You were mentioning about home leagues. It's kind of meant. It's meant to kind of have that feel, because we want to do a live draft in person. Everything. We actually just had for this year our first league, the St. Louis League Slarf, drafted a couple days ago, and that was led by Nate Markham, and they said they had a great time. And I know Jeff Erickson is doing it this year, George Montanez, Brock Miller, Kev Mazarajan, a lot of people that you know from your area. So
Kev's in, I'm out. Sorry. I love Kev.
I love
Kev.
No,
that actually sounds like a really cool idea that I would wrap my head around for next year for sure.
Yeah. It's not a high stakes type thing, but it's got some money on the line. It's got I'm trying to make it into a really competitive league, and the whole way it's structured is so that everybody has to stay active, because even if you can't win your league, you can still win for your league, for your charity. So
I like that.
I think that way keeps everybody active, and because that's one of the tough things to do when it's not high stakes. It's keeping people motivated. So we'll see if maybe we can get you in next year.
Sounds good.
Who do you think, speaking of high stakes, who do you think the best high stakes players in the world are?
Man, that's an impossible question. I almost don't want to even say names because there are just so many good players, and things just ebb and it just changes every single year. I mean, everybody kind of names a lot of the same people, and for good reason.
Sure.
Obviously all the Hall of Famers. And obviously you got Phil, and I think Emmett Ruland, and Jen Stat. I mean, there's just so many. It's really hard to say. I mean, I don't know if I could just say like there's one person that is the best, because everyone has different styles, and anyone can have their year.
It's very true.
And so I personally want to make a real splash. I'm really going to take my main seriously every year. But I really kind of want to take it to the next level. You know what I mean? I want to be in that group. It's not just, Vlad's the fun industry guy who drafts whatever. I want to be a killer, rotocifically speaking.
I want it on paper right now. Who's winning the main event this year?
Me.
No, other than you.
Oh,
can't be you. Can't be you.
Then it's canceled. I don't know. I'd like to say just like kind of give a fun answer, but I really don't know. I don't know, Justin, how many stashes are you going to have this year? Or are you anti-stash now?
Anti-stash.
Nice.
0 stash.
All right, let's say you.
He's learning.
No, wait. Danielle.
Oh. Well, she would definitely take half.
3/4.
She's like, 150K, I'll take 75 of that right off the top.
So, having been around as long as I have in the industry, how do you see the high stakes game changing from when you started? What are you doing to adapt, and where do you see it kind of going next?
I mean, obviously the inclusion of sharp younger people who are very Excel savvy, data savvy, model savvy is really a game changer in this industry, and it's gonna, unfortunately, people don't adapt, won't necessarily die off, because there is that strong element of instinct and just experience that comes into play.
Strategy,
but there are certain things, but there are just certain things that the people that can have a kind of a nice blend of both of that, I think, are usually set up for the best cases of success. I think if you're kind of one way, too stat heavy or too gut heavy, I think it's that is not a good recipe for success. But yeah, I mean, how I'm personally adapting is trying to kind of figure out like what stats mean to me, like what's actionable, what I can use, and question everything. Like if there's something out there, even though I respect so many people in the industry, something doesn't make sense to me, I'll literally like ask a question about it to them, or dig into it a little bit more myself to understand if something is, something does, matter to me stat wise. And of course, the roster construction aspect of it is really important, and that changes from year to year. Just so many things. There's so many elements to it. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I feel like right now we have like the best players that have ever played fantasy baseball, because everybody's so much more informed now. Like I was saying, there was no player analysis really when we started. It was like, I mean, there was, but it was very, very rudimentary. It was like, he hit for 293 last year, so I guess he's going to hit for a good average this year too. I don't know. I didn't even know what BABIP was back then. It was like you had so little to go off of. Some people have mentioned that who were the early adopters of the forecaster really had that edge over the rest of us. I didn't start reading the forecaster that early on, but it's a whole new world now. And those people, like you said, who can do the modeling and stuff, that really is a game changer. And it's something where I feel like I have to figure out a way to automate my game more, and a way to take some of the work off of my plate, where I can just look at something and it'll tell me, and then I can kind of make my own judgments from that. But yeah, it's intimidating. It's tough to keep up. But like you said, we kind of have to adapt in this in the way that the industry is changing. So, well, let's talk a little bit about your process now. So, as a high stakes player, do you evaluate kind of from the back to the front? You like look at what resources and positions are available later in the draft in order to take kind of the things that are rarer early on, or do you kind of draft strictly based on values? Do you cross any players off of your lists, get them out of the pool completely, or what's how do you attack your draft strategy?
So, I mean, it starts when I prep. I always like to take a little bit of a break after the season ends and just kind of reset. And then when I start to jump back into drafts is when I start my research. I try not to look at ADP too much, try not to be influenced. And then I just kind of start working through the teams, getting a feel for depth charts, playing time, review things from past seasons, both in MLB itself and within teams, and also on my rosters and my construction and fab history and things like that. And then I just kind of start to build out my projections team by team, offense by offense, rotation by rotation, and just kind of see where things fall. I use Rotolab, and everything just kind of spits out to an auction value for that. My VDP is reflected in that essentially, and that's something that I change week to week. I update everybody with the changes there, and that's what I basically use to draft off of. It's kind of how I find who my specific targets are. I kind of give the example of, it was 2016, I believe, and it was a year when Wilson Ramos and Yasmani Grandal were both being drafted after catcher 18, like both after around 20. And for whatever reason, after doing some projections, they kept popping in my top 10. And I'm like, okay, these guys probably are undervalued. And that was a good case scenario. It doesn't happen with every player every year, but in that season, those guys I had heavily on most of my teams, and I had a really good year that year. I just did not have to worry about catcher the entire season. Grandal was,
Nice.
Catcher 4, Ramos catcher 5. It just happened to be that way. Got great values. And so I'm always kind of looking for those guys. And then as January, February rolls around, I just get into more draft champions, kind of draft against the best of the best, and get a feel for where the market's at on players, where I am in relation to those players. I don't really go too much by. I'm cognizant of like position scarcity and obviously category scarcity and things like that. But I try to look for opportunities to, I guess, not go with the herd on certain things. And depending how it flows, there's some cases where you should go with the herd, but there's always some alternatives, right? It's like everyone's fighting for the same Hader and Hendricks and draft champions in the second round, and they keep pushing that price up. And all of a sudden someone's taking them 15th overall, then 14th, so you have to figure out different ways to get your saves. You don't have to go in with what everyone else is going with. So, a lot of kind of things I threw in there, but that's basically what I do.
How you play in a lot of the OCs, you also draft champions, made events. You like I said, you've done the platinum before. Like, I struggle with 12-team leagues. I'm so used to 15-team leagues, and I guess the lack of depth. Having the extra depth in a 12-team really throws me off. How do you stay so successful in both 12 and 15s?
I mean, 12 teamers are a lot more. They're especially the OCs, where you're kind of we're chasing this this large pie in the sky, this giant prize. I'm a little bit looser with in respect to upside guys, injury guys, because you can have a lot more turnover on the team. And of course, your main event's more like a cash game, I guess you could say, in DFS. I know some of you guys have talked about that, and a lot of people have, but that's sort of a different approach to those games. So I just kind of tailor my approach to each different style. And then with the OCs, and also, just letting a lot of people know that just because something is a $350 entry, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone that pays that entry is good, right? I mean, you jump into some OCs and they're just people that are just kind of throwing money in, we've been to main events where there are people that just, are drafting out of a magazine, or like, the rogue draft, or like this stuff happens. It's not, there's no anybody with, not to say there aren't a lot of great players obviously in it, and most are, but there's a scale to everything, right? There's average, there's good, there's bad, and everybody kind of falls within that scale. So yeah, of course, if you go to Vegas and you happen to be in the league with the rogue drafter or the guy drafting out of the magazine, then that's fantastic. That's great. Just better chance for ROI.
I had a guy in my main event, or one of my main events last year, who drafted all of the Tommy John injury guys. And by the end of it, I was like, oh my God, week one, he doesn't have enough pitchers. So he had to drop like 3 or 4 of his draft picks week
Jeez.
1, just in order to field a full lineup.
Unbelievable.
I mean, you learn your lessons that way, though, right? Like we talk about this stuff a lot. You know, having the experience that we have, we've made. I mean, I don't know about that. I've never made that mistake before, but you know, I wasn't always so risk averse and stuff. It's a lot of stuff is just learned over time, and you know, figuring out when the right time to take risks are, and all that stuff. And it's just a lot of stuff just comes with experience, honestly. And I think the road drafter, I know Jake was in that league. I think Genstad was too. Is that wasn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I was like, I remember looking at Jake's draft and thinking, you got like everybody that I either got or wanted just like a round or 2 later than I got them, because everybody was falling. It was like having an empty spot in your league.
Yep.
Yeah. That has happened. I've had a couple times over the years where people have drafted out of magazines. It's few and far between when you're talking about the main event, but it does happen. But from what I can see, looking at your historical results, you know, you've got a lot of success with 12s and 15s. But the online championship seems to be your best format. What is it about that format that lends itself to your skill set so much?
I mean, I don't know as much as skill set, but I think 15 teamers just took me some time to adapt to and to adjust, and kind of having a little bit of a looser approach there. Didn't really play to my skill set there for a while. So
now, can you explain that? What does that mean exactly?
Meaning in 12 teamers, I can be less risk averse. So I can take more risks in terms of upside guys, in terms of guys that I think will return from injury without worry. You know, guys coming off bad seasons. I mean, the last year's bums is like my specialty. I mean, that's what I love to do, and feel like I'm pretty good at nailing that. The guys that I feel like the market is undervaluing because they're looking at the small sample of last season where the player had issues and and injuries or whatever. So I'm a big fan of that. But with 12s also, it's a lot of people just kind of give up around the time summer comes around if they're out of the standings or football comes around. So I'm able to get a lot of guys that I want in free agent bidding. I try to save myself some money for the second half of the season.
You think that happens more in 12s than 15s for some reason?
I don't know. It's just my experience of just over the years.
I don't know.
Just kind of getting, just having a little bit more ability to get, who I want. And also because the player pool is bigger, right? I mean, the targets aren't as truncated. So you have a wider range of players you want to get after. And also just my competitive nature, right? I don't want to, look at, I want to win these leagues. And especially if you got people now things I didn't think about. And I guess I don't really care, but like, I guess I do somewhat is, people are looking at your overall standings and like, counting number of leagues you won, stuff like that. I want to keep that hot too. So, I got to keep winning the leagues in order to keep my percentage up. I think at one point, I don't know if it wasn't this year or the year prior, I think I had like the highest win percentage among anyone playing the OC for like a 7-year span. So I want to keep that up, you know what I mean? So got to keep grinding.
Yeah. And that's always kind of been, we always knew you were like the 12-team beast. What I didn't realize was how much better you had gotten in 15s. Cause like a long time ago, and I'm someone who I don't play 12s anymore. So I kind of thought you were more of a 12-team specialist. Cause until recently hadn't really looked at your historical results to see your success in the last few years in 15s and everything. So I do apologize because I know on the pod before I had said, I know. I felt really bad about that, man. I really did.
There's no, you know how it is. We're homies. Also, sometimes we all get our own, for whatever reason. I don't know why it, at that moment in time, but you know how it is. I'd rather talk to a friend about, but really at the end of the day, it isn't a big thing because I know you and I know it wasn't like intentional to slight me. So
I know, but I felt so bad.
Absolutely was. Throw it down, baby.
No. I, totally my fault. Just listening back, I was just super embarrassed about it. I was like, oh man, why did I say that? Like it was stupid. So I do apologize. And, I know that you know that we're friends and that I would never mean to disrespectfully like that. And, I know that you're one of the greats in the game. And, I'm glad to see that you've become good at the better or more to you where you are on 12s in 15s as well now.
Yeah. And you know how it is. You're only as good as your previous season, right? So like if, this year, come in like 9th, 10th, I mean, I don't end up being a learning lesson, but you want to be, we always want to kind of be there and be at the top. So,
absolutely.
But yeah, 15s they're fun, right? That's where the challenge
are.
is. Everybody wants to be, the main event champion, want to have that fill season or some, semblance of that. So yeah, of course, that's the goal. And they're fun. I've gotten to enjoy 15 teamers more the deeper that I've gotten into my research, because I'm sure you guys remember your first main event draft, or at least for me, I was struggling with those last few rounds. I remember like I thought I had my player pool deep enough, but now like these guys keep taking my players. I don't even know who to take now. So I never want to be in that position again.
That was not my experience in my first main event. I thought I had that shit in the bag.
Yeah.
I was so confident coming out.
And who was it? Who was like high-fiving you after? Was it Nick Pollock, or who was the person who said that they were like congratulating you on your draft?
Oh, everybody was.
But you remember, I think
Except
I reached
for
out to
Vlad.
you privately.
Actually,
remember?
Vlad was like, "This is not going to end well for you." I'm like, "What do you mean? This is a great team." He goes,
I can only imagine what I would have
He's like-
said to you.
No, Vlad was the only person who either was being honest or actually could see just what kind of dumpster fire this team was going to be.
It wasn't that it was a dumpster fire per se, but like because it was your first year in the main, I looked at it and you basically exemplified with that team the exact lessons I had just learned the previous season, which was crap, you got like 6 stashes on this. That's not gonna that part's not gonna work out. Like I learned, I feel like a year or two before, like you really can only have like one minor leaguer guy or one guy that's starting on IL like max, because you need that constant turnover of players. And I'm like, I mean, the names are great. If they're all healthy, they're all going to be fine. But yeah, and that's
they would have been
learn.
Great individually on different teams, not
exactly.
all together on one team.
That's it. You can't compound it. You can take risks, just not like 17 on one team. Like, it just doesn't work out.
It was 6. I just had a different 12 guys get hurt in the first month and a half of the season.
Some really bad luck. Jeez.
DeGrom got hurt. Stanton got hurt. Buxton got hurt. Like it was.
I'll be honest, Vlad. I don't really remember my like. I remember drafting my first main event, but I don't remember like if I was struggling at the end or whatever. But it was a different time. Like I definitely remembered not being like I don't know players the way I do now. It was very much like I had concentrated. Okay, these are the guys that I'm looking at the end of the draft and that kind of thing. Now, how did you do in your first main event? I don't think we talked about that because I didn't look.
I think it came in like 8th of 15 or something like that. I mean, I remember it well because I was drafting next to KJ Duke, who
I know KJ,
veteran, seasoned player at that time, and I remember being a little intimidated. But I also remember very clearly I really needed steals at a certain point in the draft, and it was like the 16th round, and I just really needed D Gordon, and I just really needed KJ Duke not to take him, and of course he did. He was right next to me. He took him, and that was that, and that kind of just sent me to like, oh man, I don't know what to do now, and so. Good lessons for the following draft season.
And that was probably back when D Gordon was actually good, right? Like,
yeah,
it
was his breakout year.
Yeah. Now you think about D Gordon, you're like, oh man, that's a terrible pick. But I got 3rd my first year, but I feel like it was mostly luck. Like I don't think I was really ready for the NFBC yet. There's definitely a long learning period after that of adjustments.
Vlad, you're known as the Fab Whisperer because you are absolutely fantastic at Fab. Your Fab article, which will be on FTN this year, is fantastic. It is a must read every week. Please go subscribe just so you can get it. How are you so good at it? Like, is it a matter of like your competitors well enough where you can go, this, Scott's gonna probably go 27 here, so I need to, because you post so many screenshots of beating people by $1 or $2. It's like, I mean, it's clearly a talent.
Well, that's also partially marketing. So no,
yes.
Well, no, I mean, but it really is. Like, I'm not going to post my screenshots where I win by 75, where I totally overbid. But no, I mean, just to keep it like humble. I mean, like it's become a lot harder since like I didn't give myself that name. I forgot. I don't even remember who. I would love to remember, but like if that's what you're going with, it's tough. People are going to be bidding on the same player. So now the last couple seasons, it's been a lot tougher. Same thing in drafts. Like drafting against friends of mine who using BDP and taking my players right before me, and then in Fab, kind of we're going after the same players. So it's tough. So you almost have to stay kind of 2 steps ahead, but still transparent. So it's difficult. but it's more just about like kind of filling my team needs. I think the most important part is filling the conditional bids properly. And I think that gets underrated because a lot of people
Yeah.
are so focused on, I want to get this guy,
Yep.
but remembering that there are possibly 8 other players in your league who also want this guy, maybe more. What are you going to do if you don't get them? And how does that player help your team for, what's your plan for that player for the short term? Because you want to fill them for the week because they're going to Colorado and Baltimore, or you need them, short term, or you want coverage for in case someone gets hurt. So thinking about all those things, I think, and kind of playing things out is probably the most important thing.
My lists are usually like 20 players long. Like I don't think that I have many lists that are like 3 or 4 guys. Like they're probably unnecessarily long, but that's just kind of my OCD or whatever you want to call it. So Vlad, what would you say is your biggest weakness as a fantasy player? Would it be rooting interest? I know you're a big Dodgers guy, love the Dodgers and all that. I don't know if you feel like you have to go after them more. But do you have any deep-seated biases like that you've had since you started playing that have set in and are kind of hard to change?
Yeah, I think it's biases on players that I have a strong feeling on earlier in the season. I just feel like I'm going to be right on them, and then just kind of going all in. I think that's probably one of them. I kind of purposely avoid the homerism. I feel like I'm even harder on my team. It may seem that I'm kind of targeting Dodgers, but really there are always a lot of Dodgers that I never touch because I know them well. Like I knew, for example, there was a period of time where I just knew because my friend had a girl that dated Jock Peterson, where he just kind of, I knew he wasn't into it, and so I wasn't going to be into Jock if he's like kind of being distracted by LA nightlife and things I knew about Matt Kemp and just certain things that you just want to I have to separate that, right? At a certain point, this is kind of like a business, business that we have fun in, but like I'm this isn't 1998 and I'm 17 and I'm drafting players because I like them because they play for my home team. You can't really do that. But yeah, I mean, that's a weakness. And then just, I don't know. I feel like there are certain categories, like a certain type of profile of pitcher I would attack would be like, I guess you can call them the Luis Castillo types. And that would always reflect in a poor whip. I would, studied my team one year. It's like all my teams have bad whip. Oh, I really like the fireballer with bad control. Maybe I should kind of balance that out with, Kyle Hendricks, Marcus Stroman types. So things like that. So I'm always constantly trying to work on getting better in that.
Yep. I know for me, I kind of focused too much on the command and control pitchers. And then last year I just got smacked because they all sucked last year. Although I don't know if it would have been a normal year. I don't know if it would have been that bad. But we'll see how it goes in 2022. Where's your biggest edge compared to the rest of the field? What do you do exceptionally well? Or maybe what do you do that others simply don't?
See the future. No. I don't know. I feel like I think last year's bums is honestly a big part of it. And even I mean, honestly, silly things and people make fun of me, but like sometimes I just feel like it's somebody that's injured every year, at a certain point, they're gonna be healthy. I know as silly as it sounds, but like for me, I was really locked in.
Except Byron Buxton, of course.
Well, we hope not, but for whatever reason, I just was convinced that Carlos Correa and Aaron Judge were fantastic prices, and I wanted in on them all last year. And Correa especially because he was in the hundreds, and people didn't even want him there. And to me, it just didn't make sense. I'm like, okay, he stopped stealing, but still, he's a first overall pick and a good offense. If he is healthy, it really could pop. And Judge, I had never been interested in, but for whatever last season, as silly as it sounds, the yoga thing. And, Silver, John Stad, Modica, those guys make fun of me, but it really was something to me personally that he was just, him and Stanton weren't just looking to be like, big beefcakes that actually wanted to stretch their muscles out, wanted to, work more on endurance and durability to try to stay, and not hit the IL. And so for whatever reason, to me, that resonated as something they were taking seriously. And, so I drafted him.
Well, because he did yoga. I mean, you're roto gut for a reason, I think it's good for people to know it's okay to take guys, even if there's reasons not to, there's so much emphasis on player stats and analysis, and all of that is great. But sometimes you should follow your gut and say, I just have a feeling about this guy. And that's okay to do also. And I think that you really highlight that, and that can be a successful path as well.
Yeah, and of course you just got to figure out if at that point if it's you just have an upset stomach and it's not actually a correct gut and on players and maybe that's something that you learn over the course of draft season, right? Like something that you have
Yeah.
a strong gut about in early January. The more you look into it, it's just okay. It doesn't make sense. Am I really just trying to convince myself on this thing here because I had this initial feeling? Kind of checking that out and make sure, is this legit? Do I want to keep rolling with this player in drafts?
Absolutely.
We got a little bit of time left, so I want to talk about your TGFBI team because it is TGFBI season. My league's done drafting, so I'm just sitting here bored for the first time all draft season without a draft because this is my last slow draft of the year. But you are in League 3. You guys look like you are about to finish round 24. You drafted from the 6th slot. What was your strategy coming in? Drafting from that 6th spot?
I didn't. I actually wanted to just get a Bichette share. To be honest, I had so many draft champions, and I hadn't really drafted in the middle of any of them. I either had an early pick or a late pick, and I thought it'd be nice to start a team with a Blue Jay and with Bo Bichette. As it so happened, Garrett Cole fell there, and I felt comfortable starting with a build around a starting pitcher. Somebody that I, personally in my rankings, I have a little bit ahead of the field and thought I would hope to get, that advantage there and then kind of build the hitters from there. So as far as plan, it was, obviously balance of trying to get the, my players, construct a roster that's well balanced with all the categories and try to grab some values that may have fallen along the way.
Do you feel like you've been executing that plan, or because this is an interestingly constructed team. I'll run through it real quick for people. You went Garrett Cole in the first, then Jordan and Teoscar in the second, third, Lindor Altuve. You went 4 straight hitters after Garrett Cole. Jack Flaherty, your boy Cody Bellinger. So is this the last year's bomb? Blake Snell, Miles Straw, and then Taylor Rogers in the 10th. Is this the way you wanted to construct the team? Because it's Miles Straw is usually like the thing people are, or the guy people are like, oh, don't do the Miles Straw thing, but you seem fine taking him.
Yeah, it was actually my first Miles Straw share period, or all draft season. Just kind of the way I was constructing it. I feel like that's the one thing I'm always kind of leaving the first few rounds in is I don't have like I need to get X many steals, but I also want to be wary that I'm not having to force the Andres Jimenez's and 30th round Bradley Zimmers. Sorry, Dave Earmuffs and Zimmer.
No, I agree with you on both of those. So
I'm the Bradley Zimmer guy.
And so it was just a period of I guess around that time I was like, you know what? He actually can be pretty solid, and I can use the steals here, and let me just manage the hitting around it. Right after that it was Moncada and Donaldson, and I got Voit later. So just, some power to kind of balance it out. And so I felt like I was okay to be able to go with a guy that may possibly only give me 5 to 7 homers.
Nice. How are you feeling? You're in round 24 right now. Are you feeling pretty good about your team? Do you feel like there's anything at the end of the draft you really need to address, or in Fab that you might need to address?
Yeah, here I am around 24. I don't have a second catcher. I'm not too worried about that. Obviously, I don't know. For some reason, I'm not feeling like going after these, Yan Gomez's and Austin Nolas of the world 5 rounds earlier when I'm probably going to drop them anyways for the, flavor of the week in early. So I don't mind waiting on the second catcher. I've got some players here that I don't usually draft. Like I don't have any Frank Schwindel. I think I got kind of beat up on first baseman at that point. There was just, the guys that I wanted were taken, and so let's give him a whirl there.
He plays every day and hits second. So at the very least, and I don't see them really replacing him with their.
I love players. Frank Schwindel.
I don't love him, but I can see the value there. Yeah,
I think I've got him on 2 of my 9 teams so far. So like he's not like necessarily somebody I'm super invested in, but
he's kind of like Jesus Aguilar, probably 20 homers, solid average, with good counting stats.
He makes a ton of in zone contact, which I love to see. So,
yeah, they're both good contact hitters. Yeah.
Technically, you have like 0 catchers because you have Adley Rutschman, So you're going to have to draft two
I was about to ask who
catchers.
his first
Why?
was.
He'll be there day one, baby.
You think he's going to be there day one?
I do.
So you're
I do.
not going to draft two catchers then? You're just going to draft one more? I mean, you're not going to draft two more.
I will
catchers?
draft one more because we'll have a fab period before then, so I could add just whoever I want right before the season starts.
And you can look at schedules and all that and see who the best guy to pick up is. Yeah, makes sense.
Exactly.
Nice.
So maybe some little Pedro Severino week one action. I don't know who they're facing because we don't know who week one is, but maybe him.
Yeah, I just.
Dave, where are you at in your draft right now?
With same thing. We're halfway through the 24th round in ours as well. So mine is League 4, I think.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel like your team's doing right now? Because you are team 3 in yours. You started off Jose Ramirez, Hader, and then you went double catcher with both Sal and Real Muto. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my whole thing was, and with how sharp my TGFBI league is, this is night and day compared to last year. Last year I could get guys 3 rounds past ADP. It was ridiculous. It was like just a wealth. This year it's been a struggle. And my whole thing with the catchers is that I felt like I could pick up whatever I needed in TGFBI. A lot of people, once they stop paying attention to everything, it's pretty easy to pick up guys at will. You can't find really good catchers in Fab though. So I wanted to get that advantage of getting those huge counting stat advantage of Sal and JTR over most other catchers. So most people's second catcher is going to be, the guys that Vlad's talking about that he's going to have, your Jan Gomes at best, those kind of guys. So I just want to I felt like I could find enough offense throughout the rest of the draft and get the pitching that I needed to. So, and I also kind of forewent my second closer until round 21. I picked up Ian Kennedy, who I'm hoping finds saves on some team, and then I'll make a couple of later spec save picks as well. Just because, again, I felt pretty confident that I could pick up guys along the way. And, I wanted an early pick. I wanted guys like Trey Turner, Jose Ramirez, Garrett Cole, that kind of thing. And, then I just started with, Gausman and Trevor Rogers and Frankie Montas, went 3 straight starters in a row from round 5 on. And I feel really good pairing those 3 with Josh Hader. I feel like I don't need, that quote unquote ace early in the draft. So I felt pretty good about that, but I've gotten burned a little bit later. Santander fell pretty far, so I ended up taking him because I'm pretty high on him. But then I needed a corner infielder, and like Voit, Aguilar, and Tellez were all still on the board, and then they all went before my 20th round pick. So, and then I waited again on Longoria, and then I got sniped on him in the 23rd round. He went 1 pick before me there too. So, corner infield is going to be interesting how I fill it out. But other than that, I feel pretty good about my team right now.
Yeah, I like your team a lot. I'll run through mine real quick. I started from the 8th spot. I took Garrett Cole. I was surprised he fell there, kind of like Vlad. He's my number 1 pitcher. And then, weirdly enough, I was surprised Zach Wheeler made it back to me in the 2nd round. And I had Zach Wheeler as my number 3 starting pitcher. So I felt like it gave me a pretty distinct advantage to start off my number 1 and my number 3. So wet pocket aces, which I've said this before, it's a strategy I'll use. It makes me super uncomfortable. And I was very, very uncomfortable. I like a lot of the players on my team. I don't necessarily know that I like the roster construction. I don't know that I like how they fit well together. I ended up taking Trevor Story in round 3. Love that. Mondesi, I felt like I didn't have enough speed, and speed went really, really fast in my draft. Took Mondesi in the 4th round. And I think that's going to make or break this team. If Mondesi has a good year, stays, plays 120 games, this team is likely going to win. If it does not, I'm probably in a fair amount of trouble, even though I got speed later.
I know one player can't kill you, obviously, but I have no Mondesi and just have this weird feeling that everything just kind of goes perfectly for him, and I'm just going to be kicking myself that I don't have any. So that's the beauty of it, right? Fantasy, all of it.
I do not have the feeling that it's going to go perfectly for him. But
I do not either. But I took the gamble, knowing that I could find some cheaper speed options later. But the problem is I don't know how much Story's going to steal. If Story was going back to Colorado, we have a general understanding.
He should keep running. I don't think it matters where he goes. He should.
It depends on what team. Like some teams won't let guys run. Now I think he's going to end up either with the Angels or in Philadelphia. Both teams should let him run if those are the places land. But if he lands somewhere that says land somewhere like Houston stops guys from running, right? So you just don't know. And then I got double closers in rounds 5 and 6. Took
Nice.
Chapman in round 5. Had
like
Will
that.
Smith as my backup. He made it all the way back to me in round 6. So saves were the thing that killed me in TGFBI last year because all my closers got hurt before opening day. So
I hate it when that happens.
I had Rosenthal, Jonathan Hernandez. I thought Archie Bradley was going to win the job in Philadelphia. And like I had 0 saves, even though Nick
So did their beat
Whitgren.
writer.
Yeah, I had Nick Whitgren. Like none of my and so I spent $900 my $1,000 of fab on saves and still only managed to get I think 24 saves last year. And so I made sure I locked him in. And JD Martinez, Mitch Haniger,
Nice.
DJ LeMahieu. I like a lot of the talent on my team. I just don't know how well it fits together. My projections have me in first, but if your projections don't have you in first, you really fucked up your draft. So we'll see exactly how that works out. So that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Vlad, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun, guys. Always good to talk shop with old friends, and we're just hoping for some. Give us something, guys. Just make this deal happen.
Please.
Let's get some baseball. It's just going to be the best feeling when that happens. We're just going to all just jump for joy at the same time. I can't freaking wait.
Now, Justin, I believe you have one more question for Vlad.
Oh, this is right. We need to end the podcast how we end every podcast. Are you Dr. Dave, Vlad?
I am not Dr. Dave, but I'm very curious as to who it would be. It would really be funny if I was Dr. Dave. It would just be the ultimate heel turn. But no, I am not Dr. Dave.
Oh, well, I guess we'll have to find out next week.
He's gonna stay John Cena for now.
Vlad, remind everybody where you can be on social media and then plug everything you're doing at FTN.
Yep, RotoGut on Twitter and FTNFantasy.com. Have a pretty cool deal going on right now. We're still 50% off our regular price. All the draft season content, DDP. Got my this year's Yelich article coming out before the end of the season. All the fab content during the year. Matty Davis, Cup for Lee, just closer charts there. Everything that you need, we got it. So come join.
All right, definitely do that. I'm a subscriber over there at FTN. You should be too, especially just for the fab article. I would subscribe just for that fab article every week.
A lot of high stakes players sing its praises, so it's
absolutely
one of the best tools out there for you guys.
And for those of you who don't necessarily play in NFBC or high stakes, it's still transferable. Vlad covers 15 team leagues and 12 team leagues. It's really, really good information. Highly recommend you go do that. Dave, where can you be reached? What are you working on?
That would be at Run DMcD, and right now my focus has been trying to get Earth going. There's 10 leagues, been trying to make sure everything goes smoothly and getting them all set up. We're trying to fill Wharf right now, so if anybody out there, and that stands for Waffle House Area Roto Fantasy, by the way. So that's like the southeastern part of the United States. If you're in the vicinity of Atlanta, I believe, is where they're looking to do their live draft this year. If you guys are out there and you want to play in a really cool live fantasy league that has a big charity component to it, get in touch with me at Run DMcD, and we'll try to get you in there. I know there's some people who are on our wait list for other area leagues who I think maybe we can get them to play virtually this year for them, just because we need to fill that league. We only have a couple slots left. So if you guys are interested, please hit me up ASAP.
There you go. You can reach me on Twitter at Justin Mason, FWFB. Email me or the show, friends of fantasy benefits at gmail.com. You can hear me on this podcast, TGFBI podcast, and the Sleeper and the Bus podcast. And I'm writing daily over at Fangraphs right now. My ranks are coming out this week. So if you're looking for ranks updates, I'm dropping my third set of updates on all of my ranks this week. And then we'll get back to some more ADP analysis stuff next week. That will wrap it up for us. For Vlad, Dave, and myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic baseball season.